A very good evening and welcome to all the guests, all the participants of the refreshing Sunday evening talk. We welcome you all to another evening of refreshing talk from Shanti Sarovar. This is a weekly series which brings topics of great depths of spiritual significance but the lightness of easy applicability in your daily life. Our today's topic is building inner resilience. And I think you all would agree, seeing the current unprecedented times, resilience is something we all need. Our schedules have been changed, toppled completely. They are different from what we were used to in the few months before this time. And resilience is something that can help us cope up with the stress of the work and the changes, so many things that are happening concurrently. So we have a very special guest with us today, and he is an expert in providing insights and tips how to build inner resilience. So we welcome our guest for today, Dr. Abdesh Sharma. So he is a practicing uh, with a clinical practice of over 35 years in Delhi and has worked extensively in the field of wellness and inner well-being. He is a consultant and has worked in different projects and presented his ideas on mental health and well-being on shows like Mind Watch and Man Ki Baat. He is an eminent speaker of Brahma Kumaris and has been practicing Raj Yoga meditation for the past 28 years. So he's featured in different television series like Zindagi Bane Aasan, Mind Matters, Khushiyan Khede Sade Vede, Man Ke Raz, and Mysteries of the Mind on the channel of Brahma Kumaris, that is Peace of Mind and Awakening channel. So, and being from the medical background, he's an active faculty with the medical wing of Brahma Kumaris. So we welcome Dr. Abdesh and give us an insight on how to build the inner resilience. Thank you for joining, and over to you, Dr. Abdesh.
Greetings of peace, love, and harmony. I've realized, especially in the lockdown, that this is what most people are looking for at the moment. Of course, money used to be a pursuit, but even in the past, money used to be a pursuit only for peace and happiness. And now suddenly, these have come into the forefront. Uh, In Brahma Kumaris, there is this beautiful word called Om Shanti. Uh, I've never heard anybody incidentally saying Om Ashanti. Nobody wants to be peaceless or wants to create peacelessness, even if at times it does happen at the level of individuals or of societies or countries, because being peaceful is a natural state of being. And all of us at different levels and dimensions want to retain or regain that peace within ourselves and to be in an atmosphere which is peaceful. And unfortunately, many a times we all find ourselves in situations which may not be as peaceful as we may want it, or we may not ourselves have felt that peaceful for a long period of time and we are longing it. So today we are going to talk about how we could not only attain inner resilience or build inner resilience, but how we could also attain some of the states of mental well-being which we long for or we want to acquire. Now, the topic for today is building inner resilience. Building means that this is something that you can build upon. That's where the word came from, which means that either we have it and we want to increase it, or even if we don't have it, we can start putting it in our lives so that we have it. So the question many a times that comes up at the same question that comes about spirituality is, when should we start it? I would say before you're born. If your parents are resilient, if the family is resilient, then you, and there is now fair amount of work which is happening, that the mother's hormones, while the child is in the womb, also affect the child. And as soon as a child is born, the child is able to pick up the atmosphere that's going on around them. And based on the mental state of the mother, there might be a possibility of a child developing resilience, because the same hormones that are produced by the mother goes through the milk. And then as the child keeps growing up, then over a period of time, based on the learnings from around them within the family or the people around them, they start becoming resilient by role modeling. Even if it hasn't happened in childhood, it can happen at any point of time in life. But I would suggest that you don't wait till the last day of your life and suddenly say, oh my God, I want to now become resilient. So I have one day left. So what do I do? So whatever age you are all at, or I am at, we can all start building our inner resilience. Uh, I think also another important dimension that we need to remember is that adolescence is the age when many conflicts start internally because of hormones, and also because of changes in thinking, and especially with the family members. We call it adolescent crisis, or generation gap, sometimes it has been called. But that also is the time when a large number of adolescents may start having emotional disturbances. And it's been found that about half of all the children or adolescents who have difficulties, about 50% of those people who develop any kind of emotional distress, emotional disorder, or mental illnesses, do so before the age of 14, and by the age of 24, almost three-fourths, 75% of those who are likely to develop any kind of mental illness, they may start having it. So it's very, very important to start investing as far as adolescents are concerned within the family, or if any adolescent is listening, then I think it's important that at some point of time, if it is not a part of the curriculum, which I know that it is not there in schools and colleges, but universities like Brahma Kumaris, which is supposed to be a spiritual university, has courses for that. And I think it's a good time and idea to invest in that. When we talk about inner, so topic was building, which we just spoke about. The second part is inner. So what is meant by inner? A lot of times we look for things outside. Outside stresses are there, outside situations are bad, and that's why I have reacted in a certain way. What we need to remember is that one, even if outside situations are difficult or challenging, it is not the same that everybody would have a similar response. Some people would be able to handle it very well, others may not be able to. And many a times the external situation is not that bad, but we tend to react to it because of our inner situation. But that's outside. A lot of times there are challenges without any external stimulus which keep on happening within us. Our self-talk that we have, our self-esteem that we have, our past thoughts that we have, our past emotions that we have, or the misinterpretations that we do of situations. And many a times, even if something is not wrong, because of our inner desires, sometimes extremely wishful, sometimes extremely damaging because they are in competition with other people, or we are jealous of other people, for, for which there is no definite cure, as we all know. So because of that itself, we might creating stressful situations for ourselves. So when we want to change the inner, we can start with ourselves, because that's where we have most control on. And today we are going to talk mostly about inner change. But once we start changing, then people around us also start changing. And when that happens, then the place that we are living in or the workplace that we are in, that starts changing. And when that happens, then the society starts changing. So in the ancient times, there used to be a saying about Vasudev Kutumbakam, which means that the whole world is my family. Because the realization was that if others are not happy or they are not at peace, I cannot be at peace because I am a part of the total environment, the whole world. And in today's day and age, when we are so connected technologically, social media, internet, television, so everything that is happening everywhere in the world is something that immediately touches us. Even the stock markets, if something is a problem, our own money also starts dwindling. Nothing has happened, but because something has happened in USA or Singapore or Japan, the money that I have in my bank will also start fluctuating or in the stocks. So that's a larger picture, but we will talk about how internally we can start looking at a change. And when we talk about resilience, resilience is not a new concept. It has been there for ages, and it has come from the fact that whenever there is a crisis, there are certain situations or certain people which are able to survive that crisis. So actually, the definition of resilience is the ability to leap back or the ability of a resourceful response to a challenging situation. Now, resourceful here means that we are able to dig out things which do not get noticed by other people. So we are able to pick out that which almost is non-existent. In India, anybody who knows the Hindi word for it, it's called jugaad, which means that we have the ability to find ways of being able to handle a situation. And if we can do that with our own emotions and with our own thoughts, then we are able to master a particular situation. So today we are going to talk about at different levels, one by one, what can be done at a very practical level, but at a scientific level. Because what we are talking about is not something that at the moment is just up in the air. This is something that can be handled by any one of us. And there is a fair amount of scientific evidence now, which is available to us at this point of time. So what I want to talk about is what are the newer ways which are being utilized at the level of the body, mind, and consciousness. So when we start talking about the body, mind, and consciousness level, again, many of us would realize that these are not different levels. These are all in one. All three exist in this particular Homo sapiens or human being. The very word human being has come from humus. Humus means earth, which means the five elements, and that connotes the body. And being is the consciousness within that changes the matter and interacts with the matter to produce the human being. So without consciousness, it is just the body. And when the being comes in with the matter, that is the body, then it becomes the human being. And the interface of the two, of soul or consciousness with the body, is mind. Now, at the level of the mind, there is a particular acronym which is there, which I thought of. Mind basically has immense powers. It's a beautiful software which is there. And because of that software, the powers of the soul can be very, very easily handled by the body. Body has, of course, immense powers. It has 100 trillion cells, and the brain, where we are supposed to have the mind, which has about 100 billion cells, and each and every cell is in very intimate connection with every other cells through chemicals, through hormones, through electrical impulses, and because of which everything that is happening anywhere else uh, in the body is known to the other part of the body. And why that's important is that we act as one, which means that if there is pain in one part of the body, whether it's emotional pain or it is physical pain, it can be picked up by the other parts. And we respond to it by wanting to come back to the natural ability of being healed or being healthy. When that doesn't happen, then we have a state of disturbance. And that state of disturbance we try to correct by going back to what is called as homeostasis, which means being stable. So at the level of the body, there are many ways by which we can become resilient, because you may have great powers of the mind. You may be meditating brilliantly, and yet if you're not physically strong or physically healthy, you will not be able to use any of these powers. Similarly, you may have six packs and you may have extremely healthy body, but if you crumble whenever there is a little bit of external or internal emotional or mental stress, then this is also of no use. So first we will talk about the body resilience, which in today's context, especially when there are illnesses, but incidentally, let me also share that whenever there is any kind of a stress, there are changes that happen in the body. We call it the stress response. And the stress response means, at least outwardly, physically, that we start having racing of the heart, we start having trembling of the hands, we start having shooting up of the blood pressure, we have dryness of our mouth, we may not be able to digest well. And if it continues for some time, then these things go on and on. And because of which we might find that other things start happening, like loss of appetite and loss of sleep, and uh, your ability to fight illnesses also come down. And that's why we have something called psychosomatic illnesses, where people, because of stress, may start developing other physical illnesses, like diabetes or high blood pressure, or asthma, and many type of cancers. To some extent, they have been modified by emotional responses. So if we are physically healthy, by recognizing that there is stress and we try and correct it, then we can become healthy, which means heal die, which means I have the ability to heal myself. And that ability to heal myself comes through the resilience of the body, which is acted upon by the mind through the powers of the soul. So, first is not being in stress as far as even physical health is concerned. And for that, having adequate sleep. Now, adequate and restful sleep is one of the first ingredients of a healthy body mind. Because when we sleep, there are lots of processes that go on silently. It's not a switching off phenomena, it's a proper way of healing oneself. It's like your computer being at work, all the background work that goes on into the computer, that starts happening in sleep. You have dreams, incidentally, which is filing of all the information that was there during the day. And similarly, hormonal changes happen, healing processes of all the damaged body parts, that happens at the level of the cells and at the level of the organs. So sleep is necessary. Sleep should be adequate, and sleep should be on time, which means going by the rhythms of the body. It is not an on-off phenomena that you decide, okay, there's a good movie in the night, so today's sleeping time is 2 o'clock. And tomorrow I have to get up early. So today I'm going to sleep early and tomorrow I get up early. So if you do that too much, your body doesn't know which part of the world it is in. You're in a constant state of being in jet lag state. So having it at the right time, having it adequately, having it in a frame of mind where you are peaceful, and you have put aside all your worries and tensions, is extremely important, because sleep is one factor which has been found to make people well or ill. Similarly, there is the food that we eat. Many people feel that a large number of people even don't think that calories or proteins are important, and how much should be had, and how frequently and in what proportions. But even if you were looking at the nutritional aspects, uh, ensuring that you eat it in the right frame of mind, you eat it well so that you digest it well, and after you have digested it well, that it has become a part of your body, because ultimately that's the purpose of food, for it to reach each and every cell of the body. And for that, doing it consistently, eating it right, eating with all the vitamins, eating at the right time, and eating in the right frame of mind becomes extremely important. Third is being of normal weight. Now, a large number of illnesses we are realizing are arising because of people not being of their right weight. Right weight, there are formulas, most of you would be knowing that. And if you're overweight by too much, more than 10%, or if you're too much underweight, then again you're not getting the right nutrition into each and every cell of your body. And if that is happening consistently, then because of that itself, you start inviting illnesses. This system was made for a certain amount of weight. So let's say there is a car on which you put the amount of load that you would put in a truck, then obviously the car can't take the load for too long. And that's what happens. And what we are also realizing is that illnesses like diabetes or high blood pressure or heart diseases are a direct result of that. And once that happens, and it is now more or less like a pandemic all over the world, where the number of people who are, especially in the Western world, but India is also catching up, where the number of people who are overweight is tremendous. And because of that itself, their ability to handle stresses go down, because the body is not strong enough, the body is not quick enough, the body is not able to handle any stress as and when it happens. So that's why it becomes important to keep it at a normal weight. And then management of disease. The word disease has come from dis-ease, which means that when you are not feeling well enough, when internally you are not at ease, then you are diseased. And the process of disease doesn't happen in one day. People don't get heart diseases in one day. You don't get diabetes in one day. It's a chronic process, and one day you just cross the threshold. So it's something that has been going on for too long. And if we are able to handle, even if one was not giving it enough attention, then whenever you have become aware of it, you have started giving it attention. And not only medication may be required, medication are necessary whenever that happens, but more importantly, the ability to give it attention in terms of a change in lifestyle. Because consistent change in lifestyle is the only way that we can handle diseases. Across the world, what has been found is that unless you do lifestyle changes in terms of management of diseases, whatever it is, whether it is prevention of diseases like corona, where you have to put a mask, you have to maintain a physical distance, you have to clean your hands. Same thing applies for all other illnesses. There are certain do's and don'ts. And if we do that, then we are able to handle the disease, and we are at ease at a physical level. And then there are what are called as physical immunity boosters. For in these last about 5-6 months, there has been a lot of talk, and unfortunately, it has only been at a physical level of what kind of Ayurvedic or homeopathic or natural products that we should be having, or those kind of things. But I think what is also important is that we start ensuring that these are things which we are able to handle at all levels, which means having it adequately, having it rightly, having all the ingredients in terms of vitamins and other natural immunity boosters, including getting the right amount of solar energy, vitamin D. Or for those who are vegetarians, then getting the right amount of vitamin B12. These are certain things which also build up immunity, because I've seen that a lot of times people are only talking about mental, emotional, or spiritual immunity or resilience, but unless you are physically well and strong, you will not be able to handle that. So once you are doing all that, then there is one more dimension which is extremely important, is no addictions of any kind, and that includes technology. What we are seeing now is that a large number of people are today getting hooked on, especially because a lot of things are happening uh, through technology today. So because of that, people are getting onto different devices, and a lot of their time and energy is spent on that. But apart from that, there are chemical substances also which people consume, like tobacco, alcohol, substances of abuse, including abuse of sleeping pills or antidepressants or painkillers, because of which, once again, people may start having, and these are not small numbers. 1/3 of the people are of adults, uh, more men than women, but now women are also catching up, use tobacco in one form or another. 15 to 20% of the population uses alcohol. 10% of the population is hooked on to alcohol. 7 to 10% of the people have other substances of abuse. So we are talking about 3/4 to half the population, which is using, abusing, or addicted to various chemical substances, which are not a part of our body, which are not required by our body. And I have never seen any prescription where a doctor says, take 2 puffs of cigarette after meals, or take 3 pegs of alcohol before meals, because they are not required. So each one of us has to be very, very cognizant of the fact that we have to let go of all those things which are damaging our body. And once we are able to do that, and we feel physically strong enough, physically resilient enough, then we can start looking at the second dimension, that is the dimension of the mind. Now, mind, there is an acronym which is MIND, means minimal inputs naturally developed. And there is an opposite one, which is maximal inputs naturally declined. So, which means that mind has a huge range. If you are, for example, in a forest or on a particular hill, and there is no sound around, you can hear a truck coming about 20 kilometers away. And if you're on the traffic junction of a big city, uh, people have to shout into your ears to be able to be heard. But the mind is able to filter out all these things. So similarly, on an everyday basis, from all the five senses, the mind is able to pick out the smallest or the largest kind of inputs. But the more pressure that we put on it, more the stress on the mind. Now, this is something that we don't realize. We think of it as natural. And that's why, a large number of people who are living in cities, incidentally, it's been found that those who live in city may have their lifespan reduced by 5 to 10 years, or they may have more kinds of illness is stress-induced, especially, then those people who are living in villages or people who are living in much more relaxed atmospheres. Of course, there are other issues in terms of nutrition and in terms of poverty, but just in terms of the atmosphere, the pollution, the kind of stresses that are there. So if we are able to understand what is right for me, what is it that minimal stress that I need to have, not too much of it, because I would not be able to handle it. And even if I'm handling it on a day-to-day basis, it's all adding up. And it is somewhere creating a problem in my mind. So for building resilience, let us say that there is an external situation. And in case I could see somebody raising their hand, so we will take up questions. We will take up each and everything. We could probably just write down, and one by one we will take up. But in case you want to build resilience, now incidentally, resilience is not something that gets built for one particular event or one particular situation. Once you build a resilience, then you are able to handle different kind of situations. You are able to, it's like once you have built a muscle, it is not to only lift weights. You can do many other activities with a good body. So similarly, once you have been able to create good resilience within yourself, then you are able to handle many more situations. So what are the ingredients of a good inner resilience? There are a string of C's, and I'll take them up one by one. First is control. So we take up only that which we can control. If I want to change the entire world, of course, I cannot control everything in the world, or I can't control everything in one go. So I start with what I can control in a small way. And with that thing which I can control, I make a commitment to be able to do that, which means that I'm going to do it on a consistent basis. And that commitment, once it is there, then I start slowly challenging that particular situation. So there is an external situation, let's say, or an internal unfulfilled desire or a stressful situations or a thought or an emotion which keeps coming. So if I can pick out a small one, if I can learn how to make a commitment and then challenge it slowly, and challenging means that I start asking myself, is it something that is so terrible as my mind is making it out to be? Is it something that I need to be so scared about or become so worked up about? Is it something that I need to react? And then creatively start looking for different ways of dealing with the situation. So let us say that for you, there is an external situation of somebody being not very nice to you. Now it's an everyday situation for a large number of people. And because of that, you become disturbed and you want to create your resilience in being able to deal with this particular situation. We will talk about big things a little later, but small day-to-day things which all add up. So if that is the situation, you could creatively start expecting that every day something wrong will be said to you by that person. And if that doesn't happen, then you can say, oh, great. Today, I have had leave from this person being not so nice to me. And you can also look at the thing being in a different way. You could laugh it off. Or you could, in your own mind, not laugh at the person, but in your own mind, you could do that. Or you could creatively give it a different name in your own mind. That this person has a different situation, different reason why so and so is reacting. Let me share a small story here with you. There was this person who was going on the road, and there was another car in front of this person where he was driving, which was going very, very slow. And it wasn't going either to the left or to the right. Right in the middle of the road, the person in front was driving. and driving very, very slow, very, very cautiously. And this guy was in a hurry and even just kept on honking, honking, honking. And for this person, now you can understand that this was becoming a stressful situation. Now, at some point of time, the road widened and he overtook, and he looked back and he realized that it was his uncle, who was a very old person, more than 80 years, and he hadn't driven for a long period of time, but he was driving. And then he flagged him. They stopped the car and he asked him what happened, and he said that his auntie at home was not well and there was no way that he could reach out to anybody. So he was just going to get a doctor. Uh, and because he hadn't driven for a long period of time, because of that reason, he was trying to be in the middle of the road so that he doesn't hit either side of the road. And he was going slow, that even if there was a problem, he was able to stop. And the minute this person understood about this being the situation with the uncle, the person completely changed, and of course the reaction was very different. So similarly, if there is a situation externally or internally, and very creatively, if we start giving it a different understanding, then it doesn't become the same, and we can be resilient in terms of dealing not only with situation like that, but with similar situations, similar people, and thus not cause so much distress to ourselves. And that brings us to the next C, which is care and compassion. If you were to ask these stories of people around you, and I do, because I'm in a job where I have to listen to people who are going through any kind of an emotional distress as a psychiatrist. So when you listen to people's stories, you realize that they are going through much more than we know. And many a times, if you were just compassionate about what they are going through, the idea about them will change. And because of that change, you would not be having that kind of a response or a reaction to that particular person or a situation. And that will free your mind of much of the energy which is going waste in this. And that helps building up the resilience again. And once you do that with care and compassion, and you communicate that to others, you communicate that to people, either if it is somebody who is causing you a lot of distress, you sit down, you have a talk, and you talk about how it is causing a problem in the relationship or how it is causing you distress, then in that case, you are going to be able to bring down your own level of distress. And once that happens, then you are able to go forward and become much more resilient, because a lot of your energies are going to be liberated from that perspective. And then along with it, once you have done all this, then comes the contentment part. You have done whatever you could. And once you have done that, then you are able to feel good about yourself. And you are ready to be able to face another situation, another challenge. So if you were to look at the process of resilience as something which is adequately, creatively, and in the right proportion dealing with an internal or external challenging situation, and you are able to deal with it, and after having mastered it, it becomes a skill within you which you can utilize forever, then you are on the way to learning the skill of building inner resilience. Now, what are the tools that we can use as far as this particular thing is concerned? The tool of inner resilience are first being able to resolve that you want to make a change. When we are faced with the particular situation, it's very, very easy to give up. And once we give up, then we say, oh, I can't handle it. And because of that, there is no change that happens within us. So there is no resilience that gets built up. So if we resolve that it is possible, it is doable, and I can try, and I would like to try, because what I will gain out of this would be of far more value, not only to me, but others around me, and not only now but also in future, then once you resolve it, then you are able to go to the next phase, which is of recovery. Recovery means that you are able to withdraw from other things, you are able to withdraw from all your negative thoughts, and you're able to then focus on being able to deal with a situation. And when that happens, then you are able to also realize that there is a rediscovery of your purpose in life. And once that happens, then you are able to give redirection to all your energies. Every day we produce so much of mental energy. Let me just give you an example. Every day we have about 25 to 30 thoughts a minute, which is about 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, which is about a novel of about 300 to 350 pages every day. And if it was unidirectional, if it is only to solve a particular purpose, then it would have a lot of energy. But most of us have it all scattered. We start with one thing, we go on to another thing, we think of the past, we think of the future. We are not sure whether it will happen or not happen. We have a lot of doubts and hesitations, and because of that, a lot of energy gets dissipated. But if we were to able to harness this energy, and incidentally, this is the average that I spoke about. But if you have certain practices in your daily life where you slow down the power that is within you by reducing the number of thoughts, then these reduction in number of thoughts itself start helping you in being able to increase their power. If there is certain number of thoughts and the power is same, then of course higher the number of thoughts, less the amount of energy in each thought. So if you start going in for meditative practices, or if you're relaxed, then your ability to do what you want to do is much more than if you're very scattered, if you're very tense. Because as soon as we become tense, the number of thoughts start increasing, and many of them are in conflict with each other. So one of the biggest thing that happens in resilience, which we need to understand, is a cooperation of all the thoughts within ourselves, and if there are people around them, with those people. So if you are able to do that, then we would be able to very easily give it a particular kind of direction, a certain amount of energy, and we will be able to handle and solve that problem much better. And that's how the resilience gets built up. How do I know if my resilience is getting built up? When I start finding that for every situation which looked very difficult in the past, now I have hope. Every time that there is a problem, physically or mentally, and I am able to give it a direction, and I am able to heal myself. And if I, by and large, despite sometimes illnesses, I'm able to feel healthy. And if I'm able to, in difficult situations also, feel stable and happy, then this hope, healing, health, happiness, and lastly, wholesome is what lets me know that I'm on the right track. So these are the indicators of having good resilience. And every time you're able to do that, and then you can move on, and then you feel that you have been able to have another skill, another situation which you have mastered well. And because of that, you would be able to deal with a difficult situation if it was to arise in future as well. Then you are on the path to building your inner resilience. Now, what are the processes that we can employ for building our inner resilience? One is the self-awareness, becoming aware of my state of mind, of my state of being, about my thoughts and my emotions and my interaction with other people. Now, when we count them all, they look very difficult or big, but actually we are doing it at all points of time every day. So this is something which is natural. It is just that we need to become aware of them. And the minute I become aware of them and I accept myself as I am, many times our energies are lost in not accepting who I am or accepting other people as they are. The minute you say, this is where things are, now what to do? And once I do that, then I'm able to free myself of all these ifs and buts and whys. And when that happens, and I have a good self-esteem, and with the right self-awareness, I can move forward and start putting some of the tricks that we are going to just now talk about. First is something as we call as check and change. As I told you about the self-awareness part, which means that becoming aware of every time that you are disturbed within yourself. And the best way to do that is to remember your basic state. When you are happy, many a times when you ask people, they will say, I was a child, I was very happy. Okay, if that be the situation, doesn't matter. Then maybe as a child, what was it that you were experiencing? Maybe you didn't have many thoughts at that point of time. You didn't have any plans. You didn't feel the burden of carrying on some of the things, whatever it was. Or subsequently, if it was a place, you went to a particular place or you met a certain person and you were feeling stable and happy. If that was happening, then again, that is the basic state that you need to come back to. So checking that every time that you are a little away from it, or you're a little disturbed, or you feel any physical symptoms, or you start feeling like, low in energy, or you start feeling that you're irritable, or you start feeling that you are not able to do something which you want to, but emotionally you are being held back. If that is happening, then you're being away from your stability. You're being away from your natural state of being. And if that is happening, then you start bringing it back to your awareness and changing. It's as simple as that. We all write into the computer, and if we have written something, if you have typed something, and if there is a spelling error, there is a program in the computer which is a spell check. So it just flags off that, this is not right. And because of that, you just make the changes and it becomes right. So the same way you can do it with your thoughts and emotions. And of course, this is something that doesn't happen in a day. This is not something that you wish and it starts happening. But this is something which is very doable and possible. We can start with small little things. We can start with things which we are not very disturbed about. We can start doing it in terms of imagination. Suppose you were to be in a situation where you are disturbed and you were to start looking at how in imagination I could change it. So you're not faced in a real situation, but you're planning it, preempting it. And when that is happening and you're able to master it, then you can take it to the real life situation. So checking and changing. And if you are becoming self-aware, which can happen with certain meditative practices, which can happen when you step back from the rushing of day-to-day life, then it is easier for most people. And for that, we have something called SOS, which means step back. First S is for that. Of course, SOS is also save our souls, which used to be a signal earlier on given by the ships when they were on the sea and they were not able to, face a particular kind of a storm. So they wanted others to come and help them. But here, if necessary and if possible, you can reach out to somebody else, great. But if you're not able to, then you can yourself step back, observe yourself, observe your thoughts, even observe when you are angry, even observe what you have said when you are angry, even observe what others may have felt when you are angry. or you have done something which you feel regret about later. So become aware of those thoughts and emotions, and then once you have stepped back, you have observed, then you steer. You steer it in the direction that you feel would be good for you and good for others. Because one of the things which we are now realizing in medical science also is that every time we have an emotion, uh, even if it is not expressed, many a times people say, "Oh, I'm angry," but I don't show it. So the minute you are angry, it starts creating a problem within yourself because all the physiological changes have happened. You may show it to somebody else and create the same things in them. That's a different matter. But every time that you have had an emotion which you are not comfortable with, your body and mind is not comfortable with, then you have also started damaging yourself. But don't worry, even if it has happened in the past, that's okay. We can always start to heal ourselves. That's not the end of life. But I'm just flagging it for everyone to understand that this is something that we need to be cognizant about. And then there is another thing which we can all do for improving our emotional resilience or inner resilience is when we can step back from a situation. When we are caught up in a situation, we feel this is the end of life. We feel that we have to take a stand, we have to do something. How dare that person say this, do this, etc., etc. But if you were to just step back for a second and just look at what it means, what is it as far as the worst case scenario? What is it that is happening to you that you're so disturbed about? And if you realize that, it's not a big deal, then in that state of being stepped back, you can look at alternatives. You can move away, you can defer it, you can say it without getting angry. We can deal with the situation because a large number of these things happen in interpersonal relationship with people. Our biggest stressors in terms of building resilience is to be able to deal with people who we think they are difficult. So if we are able to do that, or if we are able to do things that, are there in terms of difficult boss or difficult spouse or difficult child, etc., etc., then it's easier. Many of the situations, incidentally, are either of the past or of the future. There are very few situations which are happening right now in people's life, which they need to build resilience for. But if you build resilience for things now and let go of the past, then you can deal with the future in a much better and much calmer way. And that is why resilience becomes important, because it's a tool for the future. It's like learning a skill. And once you have that skill, you can apply it everywhere. So stepping back is a very, very simple tool, and we can learn to do it very easily. In the Raj Yoga meditative lifestyle, there is something called traffic control, which means that you step back from what you're doing, you step back from your thoughts, you step back from your emotions for a short period of time, maybe once every hour for a minute, or 3 to 4 times, 5 times in a day for about 3 minutes, in which you pause, you look at things, you see what you're doing, and then you do a course correction. Incidentally, this stopping is also important as far as the mind is concerned, because the mind continuously keeps on going. It keeps on churning the thoughts one after the other and the emotions that are associated with it. And if you don't learn to put a full stop, either to the past thoughts or to the situations, then it becomes difficult for us to be able to handle our emotions. And putting a full stop is thus necessary because, even in a sentence, if you don't have a full stop, then the sentence makes no sense. You can try doing this today. In a Word file, take away the full stops, and maybe if take away the commas, and then take away the spaces. you will not be able to make any sense out of it. So similarly with our thoughts, when we slow them down, which means we put spaces into them, when we give a comma, which means that we give it a direction, when we put a full stop, which means that we are able to let go of the past and we are willing to move on. When that is happening, only then life, our thoughts and emotions have a meaning. So we can all learn to do it. It is something that is doable. And once we do that, then our ability to deal with situations and our resilience can go up tremendously. Then something called being a trustee. It's a common knowledge that we all have, which is that what is mine today actually is something that I don't need to be uh, able to uh, deal with. Then in that particular situation, then we are able to realize that there is something that we would not be able to handle. And that is when we realize that, when there is a problem, then at that particular situation, we would not be able to deal with it because I'm too involved in it. So if you realize that you are just being a trustee, what is there, you are dealing with it. And after that, somebody else will be able to deal with it. So you will not get overwhelmed by the whole thing. And because of that, not getting overwhelmed, we would be able to deal with it far, far better. And I think that is the key, to not take on too much responsibility for many, many things. To be able to do what we are supposed to at a particular point of time. And then once you are able to, then somebody else has to do it. And then that is when the amount of energy that is required to deal with the situation becomes much, much less. Many times when we are in a particular situation, we feel that, that's the end. We feel that it's too much and it threatens my basic existence. But we need to realize that when we look back even in our own life, that there are possibilities of coming out of the worst situations. And once you have done that over a period of time, that's called experience, which means that you are fully aware that every situation doesn't mean the end of everything in life. There are possibilities that will emerge, maybe at the last second, but they can emerge. So giving up too easily, again, is something that doesn't allow you to build resilience, because if you keep on holding on to what you feel is right and you feel you are able to do it, then it goes a long way in being able to handle the whole situation. And the shift in consciousness, which again means that when I start seeing things from a higher perspective, higher perspective basically means that it's like being in a plane or in a helicopter. When you see things below, they don't look that bad. They don't look that bad. But if you are down on the ground, then you feel that everything is too big, too difficult to handle. And because of that, it's important to realize that you should be able to step back and look at things from a higher or a different purpose. And once you are able to do that, then the resilience builds up, because every time you are in a situation, you can withdraw, look at it from a different perspective, shift your consciousness, and be able to deal with it very, very easily. So these are some of the basic ways by which we are able to handle difficult situations. And I can assure you that these are not things that I'm saying from theoretical perspective. Many of these things I have practiced on my own, including in certain life-threatening situations. or I have been able to talk to my clients who have applied these principles. In Brahma Kumaris, we are able to do it because it happens as a group and it happens as a lifestyle, not as a meditative experience for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, but as a way of thinking, a shift in consciousness, a shift in the way that you interpret things. And once you're able to do it as a different lifestyle, then it is much more effective. And for that, persistence, patience, guidance, and the ability to bring about a change in yourself and through you being able to help others. And lastly, three things become the most important as far as we, the human beings, are concerned as a part of the Homo sapiens family, part of humanity, which is empathy. We don't know who is in what situation. And unless we are able to put ourselves in their shoes, we become judgmental. And if we can reduce that, stop that, then not only will we be less burdened by situations, but we would also be able to deal with that particular person in a different way, because we realize that that person may be going through stress, which may be far more than me. The second thing is being grateful. Whatever situation we are in, there is always something we can be grateful for. To have a full body, to have a meal, to have a place to live in, to have family, to not have major illnesses, not being in a hospital, many things. And any one of us who's able to read or to eat on an everyday basis is far, far more lucky than millions of people today. And thus, any one of us who is going through a crisis, just remembering that, of being grateful, can help us to get grounded. And that itself also helps us to build the resilience that if we are able to have so many resources around us, then we would be able to overcome. And lastly, which is about altruism. Many of these things have been studied in various universities, with people, with patients. When you start giving, you start receiving from another source. When you start giving, you also are saying that I have something to give, and that builds resilience. Because the minute you are saying that I have resources by which, even if you have no physical monetary resources, saying a good word, appreciating somebody, that's something that you can always do. And the minute we do that, there is a shift in our consciousness. Because then from a perspective of saying, I have nothing, or I am in a terrible situation, we are able to say, I have something to give, I have given, and because of that, I am in a better frame of mind. So if you are able to do that, and then we come to the last, but probably the most important, the 7 powers of the soul, which is the power of purity, the power of peace, the power of being light, knowledge, bliss, happiness. When that also you acquire through proper knowledge of who am I, and you apply it in your day-to-day life, and definitely when you apply in difficult situations, then you are able to handle that situation better because you are able to find the peace and happiness within yourself. And once that happens, then the whole system of soul, mind, body works in unison to create that resilience that not only helps you at that point of time, but becomes a skill to help you and others around you forever. So I'll stop here because I think there are some other program also.
Yeah.
And if there is anything, then of course I'm here to be able to guide to whatever extent I can. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much. Thank you so much, Brother Abdesh. It was a really insightful, and seeing from the comments and interactive uh, things people are sharing in the chat box, I think they have deeply listened it and tried to imbibe whatever you've told. And our today's session, we didn't not only have a very eminent speaker, we also have a very eminent audience as well. So we would like to invite Padam Shri Brother Karthikeyan ji, who has been uh, former director of CBI and has faced numerous situations where resilience has been an important part, where he was able to not only handle the situation but bring them to a great conclusion. So we would like to hear from him. He is very much in touch with Brahma Kumaris and has experienced various retreats with Brahma Kumaris. And as Brother Avdesh said in his talk, that altruism, and Brother Karthikeyan is an example. In his current role, he not only supports social activities and is very active, but also balances spiritual and social activities. He's actively involved in social activities, and has been inviting Brahma Kumaris and keeps in touch to have the balance of both. So over to you, Brother Karthikeyan ji. Would like to hear your experience and how.
Sister Lavneet, before Brother Karthikeyan speaks, first of all, my greetings and warm welcome, I could say, to Brother Karthikeyan. He is an epitome of humbleness, humility to the core, and doing selfless service. I've seen it from close quarters. And I think it's wonderful as a role model what he has been able to set up for the society at large. It's an honor to have him in the session today.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
I am a great admirer of Brahmakumari movement and also particularly Dr. Abdesh Sharma. So I saw his name, then I was somewhere else, but I came in to listen to him. In between I had to go away, but I came back and joined. A great admirer of Dr. Sharma, Abdesh Sharma ji. Brilliant talk you gave about resilience. In fact, the role model of resilience is the great Dadis. Dadi Prakash Mani ji, Dadi Janaki ji. I had great pleasure, opportunity, and a gift of observing them very closely. Embodiment of resilience they are. And inspired by them, I have seen down the line brothers and sisters, senior brothers and sisters, youngsters. They're all full of resilience. Of course, Raj Yoga meditation, of course, as you also said, that they believe they are all, we are children of the God Almighty. Means, you get all the power. See, your parents are powerful naturally. You inherit all the power and wealth and knowledge, everything. Brother, you have brilliantly spoke about building inner resilience, ability to find a resourceful response. What a beautiful definition you gave. And, focus, stability, happiness, feeling, self-awareness, awareness of others, awareness of the situation, imagination, observing our own thoughts, meditative practices, letting go of the past, and then the traffic control every hour so that, you start even the next hour is fresh. What a brilliant practices, these dadis have brought in into this worldwide movement, and taking responsibility, and take only that much responsibility which you can handle is a beautiful thing. And giving, you give, more you get, and more appreciate, you get more cooperation, and there is nothing is impossible. And the change in oneself you can bring about by following these eminent principles and practices of what Raja Yoga meditation gives. And nothing is impossible. You can build inner resilience. That is lesson 1 of the Brahma Kumari moment onwards. You accept you are powerful because you are your son or daughter of the all-powerful Father. Then there is the question of lack of resilience in doing anything. You see how these simple people are able to move around the world. I have seen them. how the dadis at the age of 102, 103, 104, with what confidence and grace they have been able to build up an organization. Badi Dadi Prakash Maniji, how in the 30, 40 years time, build up a global movement. Simple white sari clients, brother, sisters going around everywhere, they are respected. They are so simple, they are so humble, and they are respected all over. I have seen in the United Nations also how much of the resilience. Nothing is impossible for them because they have tremendous confidence in themselves, because the intention is the pure intention. Purity, as you beautifully said, Brother, towards the end. Purity of purpose, noble intention for the welfare of everybody else, So it gives them enormous power. It's a role model in Brahmakumari movement, and every one of them, when they move around, I have seen them in villages, small villages. I have seen them in huge cities. I have seen in New York, Australia, everywhere else, they go. Well, there's simplicity, but then humility, knowledge, and have full faith in the spirit of the divinity and the purpose of their doing. Role model for resilience are every one of them. Thank you, brother. It's always a joy to listen to you. Great. I'm sorry I didn't have the whole thing in between. I was distracted. I had to go out. But it's always a joy. Every one of them I've seen, whether the senior most dadis and brothers and all that, sitting in Mount Abu, or down the line youngsters who are just new to this, they have so much of confidence and resilience in them because the movement gives them, the philosophy gives them that power of resilience and all that. Ideal training ground. They are here to train the whole world in developing inner resilience to face even this COVID situation. Thank you. Om Shanti. The Shanti Sarovar, I always remember, it's a beautiful thing. When the whole thing started, I'll take only 2 minutes here. When Chandrababu Naidu, the then Chief Minister, we took him to Mount Abu. First time he's coming, he saw what was happening. He was overwhelmed. He told me, Mr. Karthikeyan, this is such a great organization. The 7 hours he sat through, about 25,000 sisters. He made a statement, I want them to come and start the academic center, World Academy in Hyderabad. I'll give them land. And then we followed it up. There was some problem in getting the land. Ultimately, all sorted it out. Such a beautiful campus has come out. The sisters are doing it so beautifully. And we are the first World Spiritual Conference there, inviting people from around the world and all that. Though after giving the land, there's a problem. Then, Chandrababu Naidu left out of office. But then when he was there, we got him back for the program. He had not visited afterwards. Then they said he will come only for 1 hour for the program. Then, the senior sisters told me, no, he must go around. We have built it. Then as he landed, I told him, I said, you have to get into the car. We have to go around the campus. Because the officer said, no, there's no time. He couldn't say no to me. So we got into the car and the sister also came. It's an amazing thing what he has done. I said, you promise this is what happened. He was amazed by the way the sisters and brothers have built up that campus so beautifully. Shanti Sarovar is one of the models to the whole world, actually. So great service being rendered. So I'm happy to be associated with the movement. This program is organized by Shanti Sarovar, no? Yes. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, brother. And we are honored to have you as part of our today's session. It was a great honor to have you, and thank you, Brother Avdesh, for the wonderful session.
It was
So,
an honor to have Karthikeyan Bhai to be a part of the session. I think it has brought in much more light and much more horizon to the entire thing about resilience, because
yes.
I know not only he himself has been such a wonderful example of resilience, but he has inspired many, many more through his work to become resilient.
Thank you, brother. Always your admirer. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are all assets like you are created by the Dadis. Good for the humanity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother, for taking out time, even though you had other parallel commitments.
I am in the midst of another movement.
Yeah.
Permit me to leave now. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, brother.
thank you. Om
Thank you.
Shanti.
Thank you. Om Shanti.
Okay. For all the participants, we had a great session, and so we had few questions, Brother Avdesh, in the chat box. If you would like to take, maybe, so they are asking their personal questions and would like to have your contact in this, in case they want to have discuss how to deal with them. So, Brother Avdesh.
I think it would be appropriate for me to share the contact with you. Although the issue is that I'm in Delhi, and physical contact is always not possible, so sometimes it becomes difficult. But wherever one can help, through the Shanti Sarovar sisters, Sister Vasanta, Lamit, and Sister Veena, we would be able to share the contact. So you can be in touch with them for any personal issue that is there. I could see one or two things, and I think I'm a little compelled to explain at this point of time what is necessary. One is that there are large number of people, because many people have brought on the issue of sadness or depression, or going through something which is bothering them on a day-to-day basis. So the fact is that many people may be going through depression, which is a clinical entity, and for which medication may be required, counseling and therapy may be required. Because if you are going through a situation for a long period of time, where not only is your mood changed, but also your day-to-day living is changed, your routine is changed, your sleep is changed, your appetite, weight, your ability to meet people is changed. And sometimes if you are feeling that life is not worth living, that happens, then you must immediately see a doctor, a mental health professional who can help you out at that point of time. What we have spoken of is something where you may not have an illness, but you may have situation, symptoms, or you may have certain problems which you would like to handle better. And when that is happening, then it is important that you put these things in practice. Also, even if you are in treatment or in therapy or taking medication, these principles can be useful. And they can be useful not only for you, but also for your own family members. Many a times we may have just a few things at the moment by which we become stressed out, or because of which we have up and down of emotions. But this can help you at that point of time. And it can help you to prevent developing a more serious problem in future. Also, there is a dimension of well-being, which means that it is not only that we are not ill, but we are feeling good, we are feeling well. Now, that dimension cannot be there with medication. Medicines cannot bring you on to feel peace and happiness. They can remove negative thoughts and symptoms, but for that you will have to do this work. And this work, incidentally, doesn't require too much of investment of time or energy, and definitely not money as far as Brahma Kumaris are concerned. And in today's context, I would say one is lucky because sitting in any part of the world, you can join through technology. So this is available to people across the world today, and you can always find certain courses that are going on, certain special advanced courses that are going on, which I'm sure Sister Lavni and
Yes, we have
Veena would be able
announcements.
to, right. So they would be able to do it. I would say don't look for changes within one day. It doesn't happen in any profession also. Give yourself 3 to 6 months. Do it persistently. Be willing to invest about 1 hour every day for yourself. And I think that's very, very important if you want to feel good in life. And once you are able to do that, the changes will happen either from very low to low, or from low to moderate, or from moderate to feeling good. And then it's a journey, it's a process. It starts happening, and once you feel the changes, you would continue to feel good and motivate yourself and continue to go on. So I would say it's worth an investment for you.
So, in a very beautiful manner, you summarized all the questions that we have. And we have, like Brother said, an opportunity for all the participants to actually bring this practice of meditation in their daily life. So, we have an Raj Yoga meditation course, foundation course that will start from tomorrow. So, you can see the details. So, we have in Hindi as well as a Telugu batch, the morning Hindi and evening Telugu batch. So, all the participants who would like to explore more on meditation, you can register and join us to explore and increase your inner resilience and make it a part of you. So, do not hesitate and register and experience for yourself. And the Sunday evening talks is a weekly feature, and do join us next week as well. Next week we also have an eminent dignitary, Mrs. Sharda Dayal from Delhi, New Delhi, and other details will be circulated soon. So watch out for our future communications and keep connecting with us on this Sunday refreshing evening talks. We would keep exploring more, and it is for our own development. So you can subscribe to Shanti Sarovar YouTube channel to watch the old session recordings as well as keep an update on the future sessions. So thank you all, and I think we are a little over time. So I appreciate the patience of all the participants, and thank you, Brother Avdesh, for such a wonderful session. It was highly appreciated by all the participants as well as our eminent audience, as we heard from Padma Shri Karthikeyan sir. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. We will meet again next Sunday at the same time. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you very much.